When we build, let it not be for present delights nor for present use alone. Let it be such work as our descendants will thank us for, and let us think that a time is to come when these stones will be held sacred because our hands have touched them, and that men will say as they look upon the labor and the wrought substance of them, "See, this our fathers did for us," as said by John Ruskin.
I was studying at the University of Texas in the School of Architecture, and I met Gary Scott-Nicky and Mark Scruggs. And we graduated after our 5-year program and came back to Dallas and hit a slow economy. Mark was able to get an architectural job, and Gary and I ended up at the City of Dallas Planning Department, where it was a great time to be there and really began to formulate the emphasis and passion that we have about historic preservation.
The goals for Dallas was very adamant about two things. One, it would have an urban design program, and it would pursue historic preservation. There was an idea about architecture and historic architecture that I think came out of that it's about memory more than about replication.
And while Gary and I were at the planning department, we talked about creating an architectural office based on really good design, but now we were very interested in historic preservation as well. And we had our opportunity came to us when John Tatum, a young entrepreneur developer, had bought some historic buildings in what is now the North End or the West End Historic District.
I saw Gary's rendering of the farmer's market, I think in the downtown news, and decided I needed to illustrate this vision of the restoration of historic buildings, and approached Gary and Craig at City Hall, and Architexas was the result of that. Robin and Janet McCaffrey did a plan, a very elaborate plan. Architexas built an incredibly elaborate model before the freeway was done, anticipating what the neighborhood would look like after that happened.
So we worked on John Tatum's projects for several years, and his project stalled. We had to move out of the White Swan building. And so we searched around the city and found an abandoned historic building, the Desco Tile Company building. The only inhabitants at that time was the Idle Rich Bar, which we went into and sublet from for our first office in 1983. But we were able to pick up several really pretty cool projects, two of them being the Stark Club and the Lounge at the Inwood Theater. But I think the project that stood out the most in the 1980s, that really got us through the 80s, was the Salmon Center for the Arts,
where we stayed up all night for 2 days and won a competition to put an art center in that old water department building.
Well, Architexas, of course, came forward with some brilliant designs for the building, and those were absolutely essential to the fundraising process. I think that preservation was just sort of beginning to become important to the city of Dallas when we decided to do this project.
And into the 1990s, there were 3 significant projects. We really got very busy. One of them was the work at Fair Park, which we still value very highly. I love working in Fair Park with the restoration of the Tower Building, the restoration of the Centennial Building, and the Automobile Building, as well as some other planning work that we did at Fair Park.
First project I worked on was the Tower Building, Fair Park. There was not much room on the inside, but they needed access to get to the roof of the tower, so I think it was 130 or 150 feet with one ladder straight shot. So I was scared to death doing that. I didn't think it was gonna be that big a deal, but once I got about halfway, I was just freaking out.
Another significant project in the 1990s that we began was the Cathedral of Guadalupe downtown. Incredible journey we've been on with that particular building.
Craig has a real love affair and passion for the historical buildings downtown.
Biggest shift in our office came when the Hill County Courthouse burned down in 1993. We were selected to be the architects to do the restoration of the project of the courthouse. It was really the first major courthouse to be restored, and it set off a whole new program for courthouse restorations across the state.
That courthouse sort of told us that there were lots of other courthouses in the state that may be in similar dangerous conditions if something happened to them. So I began a program called the Courthouse Alliance, where we looked at the 50 oldest courthouses in the state and tried to determine what their historical condition was, how endangered they were. We documented them, we took drawings and photographs.
So the 2000s showed up, and we decided to branch out, Architexas. So we set up an office in Austin, a city I really love.
I knew they wanted to be here more than me because they both went to school at Texas, but I jumped at the opportunity and started the Austin office here in 2000. One of the things I'm really proud of is just getting to our relationship with the University of Texas and starting work there. St. Edward's University is a wonderful private college right across the street from our office, and just recently finished restoring the outside of the main building and tower on campus, which is the central core historic landmark structure.
Finally, but not least, by any means, spanning over about a 30-year period is our work in Grapevine, Texas. A number of projects that we still value very highly and are still working on.
We need to start really saving, not only saving the fabric that's here, but making sure that they're restored in an appropriate way. Craig was always the front man. He always came and listened very intently to whatever that you had on your mind and whatever it was that you wanted to accomplish.
One of the things I appreciate about Architexas is not only their attention to detail, but their knowledge base on historic preservation.
I think one of my first experiences with adaptive use was the AWALT building in the Weston Marketplace for Slingshot. We converted it into their offices.
You know, Craig Melody and his team have spent years downtown. They have been involved with historic preservation projects all over the state.
I think Craig has always been willing to bring in the very best people that he can find.
I get to explore historic buildings, go up into clock towers that most people don't get to go, see graffiti from people that they wrote back in the 1900s, 1800s, things like that. So really the adventure of going and exploring buildings is what's most fun for me.
Our associates have been stellar performers. They're doing really high quality work, and they've been great mentors to our interns and the rest of the staff. We continue to build on our reputation as the leaders in historic preservation and adaptive use.
We really put our heart and soul into every project, and I love that every project is unique and different.
It's pretty neat to see from start to finish an entire project.
What's great about historic preservation is that there's an endless pool of resources. Every year more buildings become of historic age.
I think that we do some of the best preservation projects in Texas, and I think especially having worked at other places, we take more pride in the documents and the product that we put out than a lot of places do.
I'm just very thrilled to have been given an opportunity to share in their 40 years, but also to be able to say just how much respect that I have for Craig and for Gary and the team that has been Architexas throughout, my involvement with them.
Pretty soon we'll be getting to do some stuff from like the 70s. Will be historic, and that'll be fun.
Now we're looking at buildings that are pretty modern, so it's sort of, you're looking at a whole new technology. You're not looking at these historic materials, looking at modern materials.
We have a great reputation on the restoration preservation side. Where we go from here, I don't know.
I think we do a really good job of preserving what's important in the city and hopefully setting an example for everyone around us.
And we just want to save historic buildings and save our history, and if we can just do a little bit here in Texas, then that's really meaningful.
We kind of create this ecology of preserving and taking care of what we've got, and I think that's the kind of ethics that we need in this state.
For Architexas to grow and move forward, we are going to build on our reputation of high quality work, and that's going to carry us into some new markets. So we're excited about it.
Great architecture requires great clients, and we've had great clients. The future looks really good for Architexas too, because I don't know if we've ever been more diversified and had a lot of young talent coming in, and I look forward to the next 40.
So,
all right, let's start over. All right, take two.
is this the B-roll you're going for here?
I should start over.
Are you gonna have anything serious to say in this? Is it just gonna
You're
be
doing
me
all the serious stuff.
I tried to do it all.
Where do you see us 10, 20 years down the line, David?
I have no clue.
What are you proud of, David?
I do look good.